episode 11 on the Holocene podcast. Today we have Dan, who is the CEO of Block Blue Light. In today's episode, we discuss the importance of your light environment, why you should consider minimizing blue light, especially after dark, practical applications, especially if you live in the Northern Hemisphere and you want to get through winter whilst mitigating the damaging effects of blue light. We discuss the health benefits of red light therapy and much more. Dan is a wealth of knowledge and we go quite in depth in this interview, so I hope you enjoy. And as always, if you do, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
Yeah, no, looking forward to jumping in all things blue light and light and health.
Yes, brilliant. The reason I wanted to get you on is I've bought quite a lot of things from your website over the last 2 years, and I've not seen a lot of interviews with you. I think I've seen 2, maybe. So I wanted to try and get you on to spread the word. I talk a lot about what you do and the reasons why it's important. And I've also sent quite a bit of traffic over the years, just friends and family, people on Twitter, people that I talk to. So yeah, I thought it'd be really good to sort of bring you out into the world and let you sort of share your message, really.
Yeah, no, sounds good. I've certainly been pretty busy over the years, but yeah, slowly starting to just spend a bit more time unpacking all the knowledge of my brain and sharing it out into different people's communities and people's audiences, so they can kind of really get to understand the topic, because there's quite a bit of detail in to why and the how and the what and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah, what I liked about you as well is when I bought from you, I got an email from you and I've come back with a few questions and you answered them very thoroughly and very quickly. So I was actually really impressed with that, because I don't think you get that sort of service from everyone. And what I felt straight away is that you genuinely have done your homework and you genuinely cared. You cared to help. So I was actually really impressed with that as well.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of the basis of why I started it, because of what I went through myself, sort of thing. So I can kind of understand. I built the products to ultimately, fix my own health, sort of thing. And so then when people are reaching out, kind of I get it, sort of thing. So, but I must say it does get a little bit challenging at scale to personally answer people. I mean, but like I still do jump in there and prioritize a bit of that is where I can. Because it can be quite, I don't know, like for someone who hasn't really delved into that space much, but overwhelming to understand what they need to do and how and why and that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Big time. Well, do you mind just giving us a bit of a backstory? Because I know you've got connections to the UK. You're now in New Zealand, is that right?
Yeah. So I'm a Kiwi, live in New Zealand, lived in Australia for a little while as well, and but yeah, we also got set up in the UK a number of years ago as well, and now we're in the US as well. So kind of just slowly moving ourselves around the globe. But I reside in New Zealand now, and have a team here in New Zealand as well. Yeah.
Brilliant.
But yeah, but my story does go back quite a while. So I mean, it's going back sort of 8-9 years ago now. So I grew up in New Zealand, studied at university, wanted to get into like, I kind of had the goal of just getting into like a corporate job and like climbing the corporate ladder essentially. And so what that led me after my graduation was to go over and work in like a graduate position over in Sydney, working for one of the largest insurance companies over there. And just before I graduated, I did start getting into health and wellness. Like I kind of, after like 3 years of partying during university, and I kind of like was like, hold on a minute, like to perform better mentally, physically, I need to like look after myself. So I started getting into like nutrition and exercise, and like got into like powerlifting for a while, and I was competing at the national level in that, like quite competitively. And so when I landed over in Sydney in Australia, I continued down that competitive route of powerlifting, and so I was really trying to dial in my nutrition to like support that. And but at the same time, I also just started working in a corporate job, like literally like right in smack bang of the CBD in Sydney, like on the like 20th floor of some skyriser sort of thing, and fluorescent lighting on screen, like multiple screens. And I was working in IT, so I'd spend a lot of time during the day on screens, and then I'd have to do a lot of work out of hours as well, like doing changes and stuff at like 11 p.m. at night. And within the space of like 2 to 3 months, like I started to get quite severe symptoms of like insomnia and migraines during the day. And I honestly didn't know what was going on. So I did what most people would do, is I went to my like doctor and I was like, hey, like I can't sleep, I've got migraines. But all they did is like try to mask the symptoms, right? So I just got prescribed all sorts of cocktail of prescription medications, from antipsychotics to antidepressants to no, you're this, you're that, and it's like, and then like honestly, nothing was really working. It was just making me feel like drugged out and sedated and ultimately worse. And that kind of went on for most of a year, to the point, like, I mean, the last time I went, they were like, you know, saying that, you know, it was still progressively getting worse. By this stage, I'd given up all exercise and out of the gym, just was too chronically fatigued and like sleep deprived, and so much hormonal dysregulation from so much sleep deprivation. And then they were like, well, none of this has worked, we've tried everything. And they're like, well, it's like, it's in your head essentially, like there's nothing wrong with you. And I was like, well, that I don't buy that. Like, I was fine before and now I'm not. Like, there's clearly something's happened. And so I kind of was like, I'm done with that. Like, I'm done with like that system is not set up in a way to like help someone like genuinely find the root cause of a problem and fix it. It's more like, how do I just mask or some symptom with a drug that ultimately causes problems, and then you need another drug to fix symptoms of that drug, sort of thing. So I went away and I was like, nah, this can't be right. And I was like, well, like in my job, like in what I've learned through universities, like particularly like a whole bunch of problem solving that is a computer system, and you have to like, because I was heavily involved in like building and troubleshooting systems, I was like, well, I'll apply that analytical thinking to the human system, right? And like, let's just work backwards to find out there's obviously something's changed for the, you know, cause and effect sort of thing. So I spent a long time just researching, and like back then, I mean, the internet didn't really have much available. Wasn't all the knowledge we have widely available to us. Like podcasts like this didn't exist. There was not really a hell of a lot, but I did stumble upon a neurosurgeon in the US called Dr. Jack Cruz. He's a lot more widely known now in these realms, but it certainly wasn't back then at all. He was active on
now as well. I see him arguing a lot on Twitter.
yeah, I'm sure he is. Yeah, I don't personally follow him too much these days, but I mean, I did back then. He had a forum, and like days of like internet forums, so I was jumping in on his forum, and he had a book as well, which I read, and then I just really started to try to pick apart like a lot of his earlier blogs, that he was talking about quantum biology and light and how it affects our biology and all these type of things. And it was quite like trying to understand. A lot of his work is very complex, and it's not broken down for the layman to understand. So it did take me quite a while to really understand it. But ultimately, if I sum up what I learned from it, was that the light we're exposed to significantly governs our biology more than anything else. Like food, like people get so held up on like what diet they're on and how this is going to impact their health, but then they completely disregard the types of light they're being exposed to and how that actually affects our hormones and our whole biological makeup. And so I started looking at that and said, well, holy shit, like my light environment is like terrible. Like, I mean, I was getting up at 6 a.m. and going to work in the dark. I was walking in the dark to work. Then I'd be under artificial lighting all day on screens, and then by the time I left work, it was dark as well. And then going and training in the gym for like 2 hours under artificial lighting, coming home, and then working on a screen at like 11 p.m.
Right, you're describing my life right now.
Yeah, but with no no knowledge of what that was doing to me. Like, right, you're just like, oh well, that's just normal. That's just what everyone does, right? Like, there's that. I considered myself as healthy as you could be. I mean, like because the pillars of health, or what I considered was healthy back then, was if you eat well and you exercise, that's all you like. You'll be healthy, right? Like, there's no other aspects of that. And yeah, so that was kind of like unpacking that and learning that and going, well, hold on a minute, maybe I need to start looking at that environment and how do I, like, obviously I can't just quit my job because I need to make a living, but how do I actually like start utilizing tools and ways to make my light exposure, like, bring it back closer to like a more natural light exposure, or at least mitigating the artificial exposure to be not as detrimental to my health, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So and then with it, like, sort of applying some of those principles for sort of a couple months, it was the first time I had seen really any reverse in symptoms and change. So I was just like blown away, like, because one of the biggest things was getting a set of glasses that would block blue light at night specifically. And like back then, like, the term blue light glasses didn't exist, right? There's no one selling these things. You can buy them, but after doing a bit of research, you could get particular model of safety glasses from the US that would like block like 99% of blue light. So I kind of ordered those in from Amazon into Australia, tried them out, started wearing them a little bit during the day, a little bit, just to help the migraine symptoms. People like looking at me like I'm like crazy because like these like big huge safety glasses I'm just rocking in the office. But like that, from that point I was like, well, how is it something so simple to such a complex health problem, right? That like, we're so advanced in medicine and stuff, but all I get all these like different prescription drugs and everything, and the simple answer is like, get outside and wear some glasses at night. Like, I was like a $30 pair of glasses, right? I was like, this is nuts. Like, and I spent like 12 months of like torture of like not sleeping and like my health spiraling, getting worse and worse. So at that point I was like, and it, within 3 months I kind of reversed pretty much all of my symptoms. And I was like, I can't be the only one, is what I thought. I was like, well, there'll be plenty of other people like me, but they obviously probably like, there's probably a level of acceptance. It's just like, oh well, that's just the way it is, right? Like, the doctor said this, or they continue just to take prescription drugs and be tranquilized at night, but not actually getting the restorative sleep you need to actually repair and have good hormones and have good state of health. So yeah, I just decided, I was like, well, I just want to help. Like, I just want to see if I can help other people, right? So I just went back and like ordered like 50 pairs of glasses from the same place, and just like was like, oh, I was like, I've got a little bit of a technical mind, a little bit entrepreneurial, so let's start up a website. Like, this is in the early day, like 2015. I mean, even like trying to navigate starting a website then was a little bit different than it is today. It's not as easy, but worked it out. Sort of started up a website, and but yeah, I'm going to say it was pretty quiet for a number of years. Like, I mean, it started like just talking about the information and sharing it, and yeah, like, there was certainly more people, the more biohacker kind of like real into health and wellness was certainly getting into that sort of stuff. And yeah, just over the last 8 years, I've just continued to educate myself and like in research and science, and continue to develop products around the whole banner of like ensuring that we have the right light exposure to be, for our health. And I guess back then in 2015 when it started, it's a very different world that we live in today in 2023, right? Like, I mean, there wasn't all these digital devices. We had like, it was like the iPhone 2 back then. Like, I mean, so like, even just the way technology has evolved over that time as well, has actually had to keep me continuing to learn and evolve with that, to almost try and create ways and devices and products to help counteract the advancement of technology, because it's never, none of the technology really has consideration for like human health and how it impacts our health. So I guess that's where we come in and trying to educate first is the number one thing, and then after education is like try to provide solutions.
Yeah, that's what I liked about when I found your website is you had quite a lot of solutions. It wasn't a case of you had a lot of information on there as well, which I thought was great. So when you buy the glasses, you're very specific on exactly what it does, and it's actually backed by evidence. So when you get into this stuff and you have no idea about the nanometers and the Kelvin scale and all of this stuff, it's just a complete minefield. But I found it quite easy to get my head around, and obviously the conversation with you, and also you offer different light bulb solutions. So the first thing I did when I found out about all this stuff, like I said, about 2 years ago, I got rid of all my light bulbs in the house. And then we're like, now what? So we went and bought loads of Himalayan salt lamps, which are pretty cool. They're quite calming. It creates quite a nice environment, but they're not very bright. You can't really get much done. And I found that for a little while, we were just kind of living in the dark, which wasn't great. Messed around with some candles, again, not ideal. And then I bought a few of your lights, which I've got one in the room now, which is, I think it's the full spectrum without the blue. So it's actually quite bright. It lights a room up, which is great. I've actually got it facing the other way, and it's still relatively bright in here, so that was great. But with your situation, I mean, what was so when you started wearing the blue blockers, and I'm guessing also you started to spend a bit more time outside, maybe taking more frequent breaks, looking towards the sun, getting in as much natural blue light in the daytime as you can without taking the mick and being out away from your desk all the time. Did you what did you sort of notice? You said that a lot of your symptoms started to reverse, but what was kind of the instant thing that you started to feel, and for you to start to believe that there is legitimately something in this?
Well, the biggest one was sleep. Like that's the one that someone does every night, sort of thing. So and you either, if you sleep badly, you certainly know about it, sort of thing. So that was the first kind of signs was, oh shit, like I'm actually starting to get like better sleep. And that was by implementing a lot of daytime light exposure from natural light, and then removal of artificial light at night, or blocking out certain frequencies of light at night. Because there is a lot of research around. And I do see it a lot, where a lot of people just put on their blue blockers at night and expect it all to work, but that's not quite how biology works either. So it's quite important that you actually get natural light exposure during the day. So that's what increases our serotonin levels in our body and brain. And serotonin is what actually is then it's that precursor to melatonin. So at night, in the absence of blue light, serotonin will then convert into melatonin. So if you don't actually get outside, get enough light exposure during the day, you'll have low serotonin levels. Low serotonin is actually depression. That's why people take SSRIs, which is a serotonin uptake inhibitor. So it actually tries to make your body utilize serotonin better. So, and how do you actually solve that? Is you get outside and get natural light. So there's twofold, right? And a lot of people who have depression don't sleep well because they've got low serotonin and they don't convert to melatonin. So it doesn't actually, it's like a twofold solution. You can't just go, oh, well, I'll just block all blue light at night and that's going to fix everything and I'm going to sleep well. Because if you do that, but then you don't have the raw material to make the hormones you need to actually go to sleep, it doesn't matter that you're blocking out the wavelengths that are, suppressing the melatonin if there is no melatonin in the first place. To answer your question, the biggest thing was sleep, and then certainly around this once, I'm sure most people know how they feel after a good night's sleep versus a bad night's sleep, right? So if you start suddenly getting everything else sort of falls into line from that. So that's kind of where things for me were like, okay, now I'm sleeping better, now I feel better during the day, now my energy levels are better, now my mood's better, now I'm not getting headaches and migraines during the day. So it was all kind of underpinned from the sleep side of things.
I bet your dreams were a bit mad to start with as well, because that's something I noticed immediately. I was waking up like, oh my god, I can't believe it. They're like HD Hollywood level dreams. And I've had that ever since I was wearing the blue blockers. And I also found that when I wear them at night, I'm so much calmer. And when I go to bed, I can fall asleep in literally seconds into the deepest sleep ever. So was that a similar thing for you with the dreams and how quickly you fall asleep and how deeply you sleep as well?
Yeah, all of the above, like, and that's all conducive of having high levels of deep sleep and REM sleep. So REM sleep's in the dream state sort of thing. So when your sleep's not being disturbed, or you've got lower levels of melatonin, it allows those more restorative phases of sleep to occur for longer periods. And so that's where the dreaming will come in a lot more intensity, and your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep will be a lot higher as well.
Yeah, I found that anxiety for me as well. At the time I got into all this, it was around the COVID time, and I was running a business, and it was, really stressful, and I found that I was getting a lot of anxiety, and that's sort of what led me to looking into the blue light stuff as well. And the anxiety dropped off very quickly. And I also noticed that I might have spoken to you about this over email actually a while ago, but I noticed that the whole SAD, the SAD thing, the seasonal, seasonal association disorder. I used to struggle my whole life. I've struggled. Winter, it just kills me. Like I said, now, I mean, I leave my house for work and it's still dark. I catch the sunrise on the way in, sort of crack the window a little bit so I can get a bit of that light in without freezing myself. And I try to catch the sunset, but the sun sets before I actually finish work as well. So I have to watch that, and then I have to get back in the blue light. So it's just one of those, but I try to manage. But I noticed that the whole seasonal association disorder thing has melted away as well, because I really used to struggle. Whereas now it's not ideal, but I don't find myself bogged down for 4 months of the year like I used to.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the whole SAD is purely caused by a lack of natural light. That's a depressive disorder that conclusively has an answer, which is you're not getting enough natural light. Well, yeah. So it's an easy fix, not an easy fix, but you know what the fix is, right? It's get more like, which is challenging over winter months, particularly in the UK. But I mean, that's why you need to start to look to like how you can incorporate more of the right type of light beyond getting outside, which is possible as well. Yeah.
With regards to someone like me, and a lot of my audience is in England, so they'll be experiencing the cold, dark winters like I am. What if you're working in an office or you're working a normal job that isn't outside? I mean, how much daylight would you suggest, other than quit your job and be out as much as you can? Every hour, get out for 5 minutes, or what are we?
Yeah, well, there's no hard set rule here. Like, the research doesn't stipulate you must get X amount to have this effect. It's more, I always just say, like, whatever one person can do is good. Like, I mean, ideally you'd get outside like morning tea and then lunchtime and then sort of in the early afternoon, like, which should be achievable for most people. Everyone's allowed to take a break. Don't have your lunch inside, go outside. Even if it's rainy, just go outside in a covered area. So even if you can just get those 3 times outside during the day, that's generally enough to really, because most people just don't go outside at all, right? They get zero natural light exposure. And what it does is it actually helps entrain your circadian rhythm. So inside our brain, there's a pathway through our eyes is the main pathway in. So in our eyes, we have, we've always known, like, we use our eyes for sight. There's receptors that are called rods and cones. They take in light signals, and the rods and the cones take those signals into the brain, and that's how your brain simulates eyesight and through electrical signals. And for the there's other sort of receptors that they discovered in the late 90s, so around 1999, and they're called melanopsin receptors. So they're non-visual photoreceptors. So they're still receptors of light, but they're nothing to do with our visual pathways. And what they found with those, melanopsin receptors that are in our retinas. They are particularly activated under the short wavelength blue light. And so what that means is blue light comes in, particularly during the daytime, it activates those receptors. They then send a signal into our brain, the portion of our brain called the SCN, and that portion of the brain is essentially it's our body clock. It governs our day-night cycles. It governs and is the master system of keeping time in the body. So our body doesn't run off a like a digital clock system. It uses the sun and light system to understand what time of the day and night it is. So we've all probably heard of the circadian rhythm, and what that is essentially is a 24-hour cycle that the body runs on. And so it does perform certain functions and tasks based on the time of the day. So in order for that circadian rhythm or that body clock to understand what time it is or to sync its time, it needs to get exposure to natural light. And because the light frequencies change throughout the day, so as the day changes, the amount of levels of blue light are changing in the environment. So then that's actually changing the level of activation happening inside your eyes and changing the signal to the brain. So then the brain understands what time of the day is. So when you go outside at solar noon, it understands, based on the frequency of light coming in, that it's solar noon. If anything, it helps continue to keep that clock in sync. Now, if we don't go outside, what happens is that clock gets out of sync, and then things don't start to happen when they should happen. And that's when we get issues with like not sleeping when we should sleep, not undergoing repair mechanisms, and things like cellular cleanup when they should happen at certain times of the day and night. So that's why any level of going outside constantly allows that kind of system to stay more in sync, or gives it a better chance at keeping synchronization to the environment that you're living in.
Yeah, awesome. I know a lot of people that look into this stuff, they talk a lot about the sunrise and the sunset. Is that also something that I'd imagine you'd recommend to go out during both? But how important is it to get out during the sunrise and the sunset and really kind of get it into your eyes?
Sunrise is morning. I would again, I'm someone who's practical as well. Like some people just, if you say you need to watch the sunrise, like are they going to actually do it? Like, I mean, for me, I think a big important thing is first morning light, as in when you get up in the morning, getting outside straight away is really important, because that anchors the start of the day for your circadian rhythm.
Yeah.
Now, getting sunrise would be optimal. That's like the optimal. If you can get up and sync in with the sunrise, because that's how we're being designed to do, is when we should be when everything's running well, you should naturally wake up just on or just before sunrise. And then getting that actual sunrise light into your eyes is really beneficial because of the particularly frequencies coming off the sun at sunrise. You notice there's a lot of reds and more warmer tones in there, and that's those type of frequencies are very restorative and healing to us. And also it is a big signal into the brain, hey, it is sunrise. It understands that. So that it can be quite challenging for some people to even see the sunrise. Like if you live in a densely populated area, like actually finding a place to go, so that may mean getting up before sunrise, driving for 10 minutes to then watch it. So that's why I'm practical, and I'm like, that's probably not achievable for some. But like if you just get up and go outside and look in the direction of where the sun is for like 5 to 10 minutes every morning, that's probably a practice of something that I'd probably rank as probably right up there at a level of importance to ensure that you've got a healthy circadian rhythm. Because what that also does is
light spreads as well, right? So you don't have to be specifically looking at it just to be out and be, as you said, the morning light.
Well, the intensity of the light is so much higher outside than inside. Like the lux is a measurement of like brightness. So in a typical indoor room will be around like 500 to 1,000 lux max. Outdoors on a sunny day, it's like 100,000 lux. So it's like, it's crazy. This is mind blowing. The pathways signaling, pathway signaling light from that level of intensity is so much higher that you just don't get that. Like if you just stay indoors, you don't get enough intensity of light to really spark that kind of like circadian rhythm in the morning. So yeah, outside, like, just being outside and not necessarily looking at the sun is still going to provide huge benefits. And then what that's doing is actually setting you up for, so what you're doing in the morning is then allowing your body to actually feel tired in the evening, because you've kick-started your day. Then it actually understands once you get to the end of the day, particularly around sunset and into the evening, it's setting you up to, start to wind down and actually get tired in the evening and fall asleep faster and stay asleep as well.
Yeah. When I got into all this stuff, I was very extreme with it. And as I was saying to you before, it can be very overwhelming and stressful. And I don't know if you know what time the sun rises in the UK in the summer, but
probably
it's early,
like 4 a.m.
Yeah, well, it starts even earlier, but like the proper, when the sun starts coming through, it's early. And I was getting up and I was getting out and I was doing it throughout the whole summer, and I felt great, but I was knackered. As you say, practical. What I tend to do now, a little bit more relaxed, but still understand the importance, is when I get up, I wouldn't look at my phone unless I had my blue blockers on. And the first thing I would do is I will get up and I will, if it's raining and cold, I'll open my bathroom window and the sun rises there. So it's literally, I can watch it. Or I'll go outside and it's like the first light I will get will be from the sun, other than in the winter. And what I do is I can see behind you, you've got some of your red light panels. I actually bought one of them from you as well, which I use every morning for about 20 minutes. So I have my coffee, I do that. I don't put any lights on which isn't the lights that I have that don't have the blue in. And then when I go to work, as I say, the sun rises. So because as you say, you have to be practical. You don't want to be obsessive, but equally there's something in this. It's quite important. So I try to keep things as dimmed down as if it's nighttime until the sun comes out, and then I'll live my life, as it's daytime. I work in an office, but we're quite high up and we've got a really nice balcony with a view that extends as far as the eye can see. And the sun rises over our balcony as well. So every morning I'll watch the sunrise from there as well. And when I'm on the phone, I've got a wireless phone, and I'll go onto the balcony, and I'm out there very often as well. Maybe probably about 20 times a day, whether it's 5 minutes, 15 minutes. I'm always there. They always make comments. He's always by the back door. Even if I've just got it sort of cracked because it's freezing and I've got the light coming in, I've kind of learned all little tricks to kind of maximize it without, like you say, being a bit OTT. But then, like I say, the other thing is because the sun sets so early, I get out there, I'll make a call specifically during the sunset, I'll watch that, and then I'm back in the blue light. It is what it is, but I've learned to kind of just accept it, and it's one of those. And I get home and then I put these on whenever I need to look at my phone or whatever, and my phone's always got the orange on it and sort of blocks all the blue out as well. And I find that if you can sort of make things easy using these little hacks and these little gadgets, you don't have to get stressed by it, and you can actually sort of just get on with it, and life sort of feels semi-normal. But, so I've got a bit of a rant there. I was sorry.
And that's what I always said. It's like you've just got to make sure that what you're doing is achievable to integrate into your lifestyle without going too extreme. Because you can very quickly find yourself your life revolving around it versus living your life. So it's finding a bit of balance between, and it's like, for example, like going outside and seeing morning light versus getting up and seeing the sunrise. I mean, just the difference between the two is not massively different. Like I'm certainly seeing sunrise is optimal, but you're still going to get like 80 to 90% of the benefits from just than what you would have if you did nothing, right? So it's about finding like what's going to give you like the biggest bang for your buck without being like so over the top that it's being completely disruptive to your life, sort of thing.
Yeah, and sometimes the stress of things can actually
Correct.
trump
Yeah.
the actual benefits of the thing you're doing. A lot with
Yeah.
diet as well, you know, it's obviously you do the best you can, but if you're going to be so anal about it, if you don't live a life and you're so stressed about
Right.
everything, I mean, is it the worry that's worse than the actual
That's
thing
it.
itself?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. No, really interesting. And you know, so when you talk about the sunlight, I was reading quite a lot about watching the sunrise or getting that first morning light. It sends signals to the brain that, you know, we're going to be out in the sun today, and the body
Yep.
will almost prepare itself for sun exposure.
Mm-hmm.
So I know there's a lot of evidence around people that say you go away, or it's hot where you are and you're on holiday and it's hot, you know, whatever. Um, if you're not out for the first morning light, as we said, and you're wearing sunglasses all day,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not watching the sun set, or you're watching the sunset with your sunglasses on, you're essentially blocking those signals that are preparing your body to either be prepared for the sun exposure and the UV light, and also to send signals to the body to start to heal and repair the potential skin damage throughout the day as well. Is that something you've looked a lot into as well?
Yeah. Yep. So there's kind of two things there. So the first thing is, first of all, getting the morning exposure and it's like around sunrise and then around sunset. That type of light has infrared light in it, but no UV light. UV light doesn't come into our environment normally till the sun hits a certain angle in the sky. So UV light and infrared light are almost like opposites of each other. UV light is a very short wavelength down the one end of the scale, and then infrared light is a very long wavelength. So what that means is UV light, being a shorter wavelength, holds a lot more energy in it. It's more damaging. So if you isolate UV light and get exposed to that, it's going to cause a lot of oxidative stress, cellular damage, cell breakdown.
Yeah.
And blue light sits right next to UV light, so it's not nearly as damaging, but it's in the shorter wavelengths as well, and that's why we see a lot of issues with isolated blue light. Particularly, we get isolated blue light when we're in indoor environments. Now, on the other end of the scale, you've got the red and the infrared, which is the longer wavelengths, which are traditionally known and are shown to be more regenerative. They're healing. They actually reverse what UV and blue light does. So if you get a lot of exposure to those frequencies without the UV light, it actually does upregulate processes on particularly on your skin. If that's where it's being exposed, it's going to upregulate the body's ability to heal any damage, right? But then if you don't get those exposures, you go straight into like midday sun. There's more chance of just cellular damage and skin damage and effectively sunburn. That's one thing. The other thing you mentioned was sunglasses, and there actually absolutely is research around that again comes to the eyes and the signaling of light into the eyes. So the brain is known when it signals blue light in the environment, it knows there's also UV light. So it actually upregulates the skin to be prepared to be receiving UV light. Now, if you wear sunglasses, you effectively block a lot of the blue light. It brings that blue light right down. So that effectively the skin doesn't prepare itself to be hammered by UV light, and you burn more easily. There's been research to show that people that wear sunglasses will burn a lot more easier than if they're not wearing sunglasses, because you're no longer receiving the right light signals through your eyes anymore. They're not seeing all the blue light, or all the UV light is blocked from the eyes, and then most of the blue light is reduced down. So you're just getting this low level exposure. The signaling into the brain is like, I'm not in a high UV environment, but then you actually are in a high UV environment. Therefore, it doesn't prepare itself for that. So then, that becomes an issue as well.
So when people get skin damage on holiday, obviously the sun's blamed, but it could be the fact that you woke up at 11, o'clock, nearly midday, hungover, you're back out, you've got your sunglasses on, you're in the sun drinking all day.
So the sun's not the problem. Like, I mean, without the sun, there is no life. There's no such thing as life on planet Earth without sunlight. So to say, and like we're becoming a society of being like sunphobic, right? We feel like the sun is going to kill us. It's bad for us. We need to wear sunblock. We need to cover up and not go into the sun. Well, it's the complete opposite, right? And the issue is the issue is the things we just discussed, is the sunglasses. So your brain's not being signaled about the light it's being in, not getting the earlier light in the day and the later light in the evening. Most people just go straight to the beach midday. Their skin is pure white, hasn't seen the sun, and then they burn, right? And that is bad for you, but there's a thing called a solar callus. It's like you build up tolerance to the sun, because if we lived in the natural environments we did, we wouldn't be jumping into like high UV sunlight in the middle of summer. We were being exposed to it all the way through winter when there's not much UV light in there, and slowly built ourselves up into the high UV environment. What happens is the skin responds to sunlight, and it builds up a thing called melanin in our skin. And so melanin is what makes us tan, or certain races, ethnicities have higher levels of melanin based on their genetics, based on where they evolved from, e.g. close to the equator. So what that is a defense mechanism against UV light. Melanin will block UV light. So the issue so what that means is, so you get enough exposure, then eventually you can go out in midday sun in the middle of summer, and you'll have enough melanin built up in your skin that you won't burn. But most people don't. They stay indoors all through winters, don't get outside, and then they go straight to the beach in summer and burn, and then it does create a lot of cell damage, and it can cause a lot of problems. But so it's not the sun that's the problem. It's the way that we're not building ourselves up to, we're not living in the environment with the sun year round. The real issue comes, which I touched on, is the melanin issue. Is an issue for someone who has extremely high levels of melanin based on genetics, based on the color of their skin, but they're not living in their environment that their genetics are set up for. So if you put someone from Africa in the UK, they can't absorb UV light in near enough levels that they need to, because UV light, we need UV light because it synthesizes into vitamin D, mixes with cholesterol, and we create vitamin D. Vitamin D is a hormone. It's one of the most critical hormones for health of the human body. But if you are unable to synthesize that vitamin D through UV light because you've got high melanin that's blocking it, and you're in an environment that's got low UV light, e.g. the UK in winter, you're set up to have severe health issues. Because of the environment you're in. So genetics play a role in the how we're designed, what environment we're designed to live in as well, and that's all part of the kind of the light story and how we're set up to live under the sun, essentially.
Wow. Yeah, since I've been sort of working with my light environment, or fixing my light environment, a few things I've noticed is I never really burn massively, but I don't burn at all now. And so I used to really struggle with the brightness of the sun in my eyes. So I'd go out and I felt I had to wear sunglasses, whereas now, I went to Thailand this year, did a bit of traveling, and I didn't wear sunglasses once. I didn't feel the need once, because my eyes are great. I've noticed that my vision's got better as well. I haven't had a test. I don't even want to, because I'm just not interested. But because I'd always find something, right, and some reason to get you into some sort of prescription. But my vision has got a lot better as well, and I used to get headaches as well, as you did. I've noticed that there's quite a link between your environment and how light affects you as well. Like if you're, I'm actually interviewing someone next week who she's a naturopathic doctor who's really kind of specializes in mold exposure. So if you've been exposed to mold, it can, like EMFs can wreak havoc on you as well as
Mhm.
light. So blue
Yep.
light can be even worse. And I found we had a bit of mold in our loft, and it that caused me loads of issues with blue light as well. So whilst that was being sorted and I was getting into the blue blocking and stuff, I managed to fix that. You know, a two-prong attack, but I found that was quite interesting as well. So if you do struggle in a light environment, obviously try and fix that first, because that's probably the easiest thing to do. But then when you start looking at your overall metabolic health and your terrain and these aspects as well, your diet, you start to realize that it all comes together and you become more, I don't know, more able to adapt to the light. So it's quite interesting. It all kind of works together, doesn't it?
That's right. Yeah. It's kind
I
of
was going to ask you as well, because this is another thing that stressed me out when I was getting into all of this, is how all windows block UV light
they
and
block UVB light. Yeah.
UVB. So I know there can be a lot of issues with people that sit near the window in an office without it being open, even just opening it a crack, you know, like I say, light spread. So it's so much better than having it shut. But is there a lot of issues there as well? Health issues because you think you're getting the light, but you're actually not. It's not the full spectrum.
No, it's not. It blocks a lot of infrared and UVB light, letting the UVA light through, which is the type of UV light that makes us burn. UVB light is the beneficial UV light that we use to synthesize the vitamin D. So, yeah, it's not full spectrum light. It's not natural light. It's still what I consider like a form of artificial light because it's been filtered. But
Yeah.
it's still a hell of a lot better than turning on your standard typical LEDs in the room. So like again, it's a scale, I guess. Like I wouldn't consider it being outside, but I'd consider a hell of a lot better if you were able to light up a room still with natural light through a window than having to turn on a whole bunch of fluorescent and LED lighting in the room as well. But
Yeah.
you're right. If you can open the windows, that's perfect. It allows more of that light to come in unfiltered, and then, but nothing beats the direct exposure on yourself by getting outside as well.
Yeah. If anyone works in an office that has LED lights, you know, just going back to the point we said earlier, would you recommend just every hour just get outside and get that natural light on you? Don't get too stressed and worried about it. Just sort of do your best.
Yeah, that plus if you're in like real harsh lighting, is having a set of glasses to filter the right frequencies, to bring them more down to, because essentially the blue light frequencies are extremely high, like at superficial levels, well beyond what the eye should be really taking in. So finding a proper set of glasses that are designed to filter the correct frequencies to bring them down to more natural levels is step one. And then it's trying to just have some regular breaks outside as well.
Yeah. Would you worry too much about the blue light on your skin in that office environment, or just really cover the eyes, focus on the eyes?
The eyes is the most important. There is certainly research around skin. It's going to cause more damage to your skin. Like I said, like blue light is a shorter wavelength, causing oxidative damage. It will cause your skin to age quicker. We've written a bit of a blog and stuff and looked at the research on that and what it does to skin damage. But it's more of an issue in the eyes, because most of the time it's that close proximity to the screens that are coming into the eyes. But in saying that, I'm not saying it isn't a problem with the skin, but for most people, they're probably more seeing concerns and symptoms around mainly blue light exposure within the eye.
Yeah. Would you be more worried about the blue light coming off of your LED lights in the office or the computer screen, or both?
It is both. I mean, the lights now in offices are pretty harsh lighting, and a lot of them have flicker in them as well, which is another neurological stress that they're creating.
Yeah.
The issue is the screens, is the proximity. Like I said, like most people are, right up onto a screen, and they've got them on full brightness and stuff. So, but it's both together. It's like they're compounding. Like there's just lighting, there's screens. It's just overloading. It's just an overload of like those very narrow, isolated bandwidths of blue light without any of the other color spectrums in them.
Yeah. 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 The thing is, like I said, there's only so much you can do, isn't there? So you've just got to use these tools to. Then equally, people think you're weird, which is the thing that I'm going through. Because I had my own business for 4 years, and it was great because I could do what I wanted. So I had the perfect environment. I was outside a lot. We only had we don't have any LED lights in the house. And then now I've actually gone back to work because it's a lot easier. You know what it's like running a business, it's a nightmare. And I come to the conclusion that the stress of my own business outweighed everything else that I was doing to mitigate it. But now I'm in that blue light environment again. So, and you walk around with these orange glasses on, and you're asking for.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the day, and I'm hoping that you're the one who sort of revolutionizes the industry. But when you have proper glasses that block out all blue light that aren't red, is that day coming? Is that?
It's just physics. It's not possible, like based
Really?
on like, because like if you need to filter out a complete color spectrum, it needs to oppose it with another color, the opposite color. That's kind of how it works. Yeah. So that's why when you see people companies that are promoting glasses that say they block 100% of blue light and they're clear, well, can you see blue still? That's that's the bullshit test, really.
Yeah.
So
I bought a pair of. I've got. Well, bloody hell! Nearly fell off my seat then. I've got the yellow, the orange, and the red. And the yellow, I just wear if I go to the supermarket or something, and it's. So if I went like now to the supermarket, I'd wear the yellows, because if I wear the oranges, I get very tired.
Yeah, they're doing what they're supposed to do. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And when I flew to Thailand, it was a night flight. I wore the reds the whole way, and I slept. I don't sleep on planes. I really struggle. I get a lot of anxiety. Any noise, I'm like, what's going on? And I slept basically the whole way. It was incredible. It's the first time I've ever done it. So definitely something in that. So I wouldn't recommend wearing them when driving. That'd be a bit chaotic.
Bit of a safety issue there around driving. Yeah.
Yeah, but those yellow ones are very handy actually. So I mentioned about the red light. So I've been using the red light panel for a while, and it's hard to I've read up on the benefits, and I've watched loads of videos of the benefits, and I noticed my skin's a lot better, and just things like my vision seems to have got better as well, and there's other things, like I said, that I've been doing as well. But would you mind just sort of going into a bit of sort of what the benefits are? And I mean, I'm guessing you use your panels a lot as well, and have you noticed any benefits yourself?
Yeah, so we're talking about red light therapy, which is different than using red lighting in your home or anything like that. So this is using very specific wavelengths of red light and near infrared light that have been shown in a lot of research to be extremely bioactive in our bodies. So particularly the red light has a lot of benefits around skin health and at the surface layer of the skin. So it can help with aging, like anti-aging, like wrinkles, fine lines, but then like scar tissue and scarring and anything related to the skin. Also hair growth as well is kind of in the umbrella. And then it's a near infrared light around specific frequencies of near infrared light, which is the 810, the 830, and the 850 nanometer light that will penetrate into the body like up to like 4 inches in. And it's that type of light that's utilized, or it's absorbed by our mitochondria, which our mitochondria within our cells, they produce energy for us essentially. So our mitochondria produce ATP, which is a energy fuel for the body, for the cell, and there's a pathway that the mitochondria use to produce that, and it's it's through essentially there's a enzyme called the cytochrome C oxidase, which it upregulates that pathway, so the mitochondria can produce ATP like 10 times more efficiently. And so if you're able to produce energy more efficiently, the cell operates more efficiently, it operates the way it should, and then it upregulates healing, or it upregulates the body to get back into a state of of health again. So I mean, the benefits are very wide ranging, based depending on like what area the light has been shone on, but then what the issue is with those particular cells, for example. So like there's a lot of research around brain health and helping with like conditions like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease can help with, but there's like athletic performance recovery, arthritis, like pain, joint health, all that sort of stuff. But then you can like things like thyroid, like helping with thyroid disease and stuff like that. So it's quite it's almost like people are like, holy shit, this is like a miracle thing. Well, it isn't. I mean, it just depends on what your body, like what dysfunctions it has. But if you look at most chronic disease, there's a form of mitochondrial dysfunction that is occurring. So if you can assist the mitochondria to upregulate and produce energy the way they should be more efficiently, then it helps those cells and that tissue or that organ or that gland or whatever get into a state of like optimal health. So that's the idea behind it. So yeah, for me, I've used it for like 5-6 years now. So like I'm not using it to try and solve a chronic condition, but it does help with energy production. So I do notice like, ability to be more energized during the day. I don't get sick as often. So I mean, I don't get sick ever. So it's like there's a lot of immune around your immune system and regulating that. So I mean, like I'm more using it for like maintaining optimal health, I guess, versus trying to like get back into optimal health. But it's kind of depending on who you are. Like there is a lot of people that are using it for that, and the skin conditions like eczema and stuff like that. It's heavily used in that area as well.
Yeah. Is there any particular time of the day that you'd recommend it, or just fit it in?
Fit it in is the main thing. People ask that. I mean, like I do mine in the morning, but like it doesn't, like you'll still get the same benefits if you do it in the afternoon. You just need to be careful in the evening, the stimulation of bright light. Like it's not blue light, but it is really bright. It can be energizing for some people. So it just depends. Some people are fine with it in the evening. I personally avoid it in the evening. But it's more the better thing is that's what people ask. And I'm like, well, the best time of the day is doing it where you will create a routine and consistently do it, versus me telling you have to do it in the morning, and then you're like, oh, how do I make this work? And then you actually end up not doing it. It's like, yeah.
A coffee podcast or coffee and a book, and I'll sit and do that. It's like my thing. But I used to do it in the evening as well, and I find that for me it works both ways. So it energizes me, it gives me energy in the morning, but it helps me to relax in the evening.
Some people,
so I could switch off. I was doing it before bed sometimes, and I'd have no issues going to sleep. So,
it is completely individual. We see some people is that case where they literally find it a relaxing activity to do before bed, but then for some people, like, I just didn't really like. Now I'm like wide awake, sort of thing. Yeah. So,
I'm very much in sync with my circadian rhythm. When the sun comes up, ping, I'm awake. My body clock is incredible. Even on the weekend, no issue. And I'm asleep at the same time every day. So for someone like me, it's quite easy. But I'd imagine if you work shifts, or if your body clock's a bit all over the place, I'd imagine it could maybe cause you problems. Yeah. Do you know much about the Juve? Is it not Juve? The Spurti. I'm waiting for you guys to start actually
Sperdy,
on
yeah,
your
which is a
yeah.
UV lamp. UV lamp. Look, we get asked about that. We have no, as much as I see the benefits of it, I have no desire to try and produce a product with UV light. And the reason being is UV light is something that you could very quickly cause more harm than good if you don't get the right exposure to it.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, infrared light is a very, very safe piece of technology to use. You can't really overdo it. But UV light is very, very much like you need to sit in a band of like getting the right amount. As a business owner, I mean, liability, like I don't want to be responsible for people getting skin cancer and having all sorts of issues. So there is products around. I mean, but like it being without having the right education behind how they're being used and selling them, that's why I just don't feel quite comfortable with creating a product. I mean, I know how to do it, but yeah,
Is it a product that, is it something that you would use yourself?
It would be, yeah, it would be, particularly in winter. Particularly now that I'm very busy and I don't get out. Like I literally sit here and educate about all this stuff, and it's just interesting as you get busier and busier. It gets like, I mean, like the last year for me has been like wild, and I struggle to do some of the things I preach, right? And so, but the things like using like red light therapy, these some non-negotiables in my life that I keep. And like I would use something like that in winter, definitely, because I don't get outside enough now that I'm too busy.
We were looking into getting one, but you have to pay the American tax, and by the time you got it, you're paying nearly double in delivery and tax. On product. And we're like, just get outside. Just the thing is, the winter's harsh, but we get so much light in the summer.
That's the idea. As long as you do everything right in summer, you'll get through winter fine. That's the way the body's designed to work as well.
I've noticed that. I really have. There's like when you look into like the half-life of vitamin D, it's like 2 months. High boron levels can help double that. So there's ways that you can like really cleverly store up your vitamin D, or even just go on a little break down to Egypt or Tenerife for us. It's like a 4-hour flight, and you get some decent UV exposure all year round. Just a weekend down there and really stock up again and come back and help help yourself get through that. I was going to ask just before I let you go, because I'm really cautious of your time, because it is the morning over there for you. What I try to do on this program, and I think we've already done we've offered a lot already, but I always try to sort of end with solutions. The sort of stuff that I look into and the people I interview, it can seem doom and gloom some ways. To new people that haven't looked into it before. I certainly don't think you've come across that way. I think you've been really positive actually, and really insightful with your information. But some people might look at it and go, oh my God, like as I was alluding to earlier, I live in England, it's dark all the time. I don't have my own business. I can't go outside all the time. If you wouldn't mind, if you were in a place like where I am, or in a place where you don't get a whole lot of light, what would be your routine? Because I obviously you've mentioned I get up, I do my red light. It's a non-negotiable. In the daytime, try and get out as much as I can. But come evening, I mean, would you go home and it's 5 o'clock and you've got all the lights out, or do you kind of live a normal life the best you can, and just do the best you can without stressing too much?
Yeah, I mean, like in that scenario, like coming home, like you can have there's healthier alternatives, right? So you don't need to live in the dark. Like that's like a couple of ways sort of being like, you learn all this doesn't mean you need to like go like live out in nature and like not have any of the luxuries of technology we have. It's like, okay, well, how can I actually make some slight changes to how I live my life to make it like really not have those detrimental effects? So it would have looked like if I come home, I would have lighting in our house that it's not conventional lighting. So I mean, we sell a whole range of different lighting from full spectrum for daytime, but then we have ones where it's bringing down the levels of blue light. I mean, them within a couple of hours after sunset should really be not lights turned off, but at least eliminated all of the blue light. So I mean, we would normally have all our overhead lights on, but they're completely blue light free whilst we're cooking or doing stuff in the early evening. And then once you're kind of done for the evening and just like gonna relax or whatever, all the lights get turned off and you just have a couple of lamps on with some nice lights in them. So, our amber light sort of thing to create that nice warm amber environment. And then if you want to watch TV, because I'm not like, oh, you can't watch TV. Like, I personally, like, after I've been like a hard mental day of like work, sometimes I just want to watch some TV. So I'll just make sure I'm wearing some glasses. Again, so it's kind of like you're still having the luxuries of watching TV and stuff, but it's not having that detrimental like effect on my health and sleep. I mean, I'm not watching a really stimulating show. Like, you gotta be careful there, like, because there is an element of stimulation as well beyond the light. But yeah, I think, like, I'm not always like like some people were like, like literally we're like no lights in the house and stuff. I'm like, no, it's about working out ways that you can use like slightly different alternatives that then are going to essentially mitigate most of the harmful effects.
And if guests come round and it's dark, they don't think you're a complete weirdo because they wouldn't know that your lights just don't have the blue. It's not like you're living in a red house with
Most people like it. They go, oh, those are like really warm, relaxing lights, sort of thing.
Yeah. Do you use incandescent as well, or do you? I guess you stick with your eyes. You make your own.
Yeah, like, I mean, I used to, before we brought out lighting, I used to use incandescent lighting, and then I was sort of like looking and going, well, I think this can be improved on, because incandescent has its flaws as well. Twofold, I guess. Incandescent is like it's kind of good for both day and night, but it's kind of pretty shitty at both of them, if that makes sense. So at night, so it still has blue light in it, so it's not ideal for nighttime. It has way lower amounts of blue light, but it still has blue light in it, so it's not the most optimal type of light to use in the evening. So, like, ideally you want blue light eliminated in the evening, and then during the daytime you want, like, it's considered full spectrum light because it has all the spectrum, but it doesn't have enough blue light in it during the day. It's not balanced. It's got really low blue and it's got heaps of orange and reds in it. But like, ideally your daytime lighting should be balanced with the same amount of red and yellow and orange as the blue and green. And so that's why we created a full spectrum light. So I always say, like, it's way better than anything that's more conventional LED, but it still has its flaws in it. And I guess that's what we've tried to sit there and create lighting that looks at looks at nature and looks at how we would be using lighting outdoors, and trying to bring that indoors as best we can. So then when you are indoors, you're kind of getting a better mix of the right types of light.
Perfect. And you mentioned sunset's 5 o'clock, let's just say. You're cooking dinner at 6.
Yep.
You've still got bright lights on while you're cooking dinner. You're not worried like, oh, in nature the sun's down now, so we have to eat before the sun comes down. A lot of people just eat in daylight, and then in the evening it's cutting those lights out. You'd allow a bit of an overspill, couple of hours, we can enjoy ourselves and eat and chill, and then we start to wind down at maybe 8 o'clock. So.
I mean, the lighting I have on at 5 is got no blue light in it, but it's still bright overhead lighting, so I can see and do and function and live in my house. But I mean, it's still more biologically appropriate lighting for that evening. And then so I've kind of, it's like a staged approach. I'm using that type of light as soon as it's dark, as soon as I need to turn on light in my house, and then which has got no blue light in it, so it's not having a stimulatory effect on us, but it's allowing us to see. And then Then a couple of hours after that, all that lighting gets turned off, and a couple of lamps get turned on to bring a lower level of lighting. It's no longer overhead; it's eye level and below, which is actually a part of a signaling. If you look at how cavemen used to live, it was like fire. Fire was the natural light source, and it was not coming from overhead. Sunlight was overhead. Evening lighting was always like below eye level. So you're kind of replicating that to the environment as well.
Awesome. Okay. Man, I've got so many more questions, but I think we're just we'll just keep going, and it's probably gonna just be information overload. And like I said, I am cautious of your time, so unless there's anything else you specifically wanted to sort of go into or maybe plug before we go.
Well, the only other thing is if people are wanting to learn more, we've got a wealth of knowledge on our website. So if you jump over to, if you're in the UK, blockbluelight.co.uk, and we've got over 100 blogs now on all sorts of this sort of topics. So we range from all different things. So that's where would really recommend someone to go if they're wanting to do a bit more of a deep dive and learn a bit more about the science behind all this sort of stuff as well.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, look, I really appreciate your time today, and there's a lot I'm gonna have to listen to this back a few times, I think, just to make sure it all. But no, I really appreciate your time, Daniel. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks, Jay.
Cheers.